Hello, everybody, and welcome to Rollplay for Verona, episode number 10. Good shapes to everyone. Welcome. I am your Space Master, and I am joined, as usual, by all of these adorable people. Hello, friends. Welcome. Look, we did it. 2 in a row. Nice job.
Wow.
What is
Vana, I have to ask, we have to start with this. How was the musical? How did it go? I got to watch bits and pieces of it, but I would love to hear your thoughts on this. So tell everybody, because in case they missed it last time, tell everybody what you did and then tell us how it went.
Well, I do another weekly RPG show called Pirates of Salt Bay, which is a 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons show where we're kind of playing through the Ghosts of Saltmarsh content, but it's a lot of homebrew stuff as well. Um, Over at Saving Throw Show on Twitch or YouTube, and we had an unlock a while ago that someone in our party was like, "Wouldn't it be funny if everyone donated $500 and we did a musical episode?" And they hit it, of course, and then, like,
Of
afterwards,
course,
our
yeah.
producer was like, "500? Really? Like, you want us to produce an entire musical for $500? Great. Perfect. Thank you so much for just promising that without checking with me." But we made it happen. Our GM, Abria Iyengar, her husband, like, in a day, made all this, like, original music, for us to improvise songs to, like, literally in a day. It was wild. And it was, like, ballads and, like, like, Hamilton-esque songs and, like, talky songs. And then, yeah, it was like Abria would just, um, like, conduct when she thought we should have a musical moment and then just give us a song, and then we just sort of had to, like, with the context of the moment, come up with lyrics on the fly and try
Wow.
to sing along to music we've heard for the first time that morning.
Sounds like a
So,
blast, honestly.
it was really, really fun. It was like, all things considered, like, that sounds impossible, but I think all things considered, everybody did amazing, and I think the everybody watching had a good time, and yeah, it was really fun. It was, like, very funny, it was very stupid, but it was also, like, a super emotional episode, and it was our finale for the season too, so
Yeah, going out with a bang.
yeah.
That's awesome. So yeah, it feels like it's one of those things that in concept you're like, yeah, that'd be really fun and really funny if we did that, and then you actually have to do it, and you're like, oh, this is very hard, and singing is difficult, and making up songs on
Well,
the fly is even more difficult.
right. Well, I think, I know for sure I have a comedy background that's, like, 10 plus years, and that includes
Yeah.
improv. Not a ton of musical improv, but it's in there, and then I
Hmm.
think Eric, Reichert, who's also on the show, has a similar background, and I feel like Brie and Terry do as well. I don't know for sure, but, I think it wasn't coming out of nowhere for a lot of us, it was like we have some background in beyond tabletop RPGs of pulling shit out of our ass, so
Hmm.
and man, so many good singers too. Like Terry Gamble, who's on the show, is just like such an incredible vocalist. So it was cool to just get to watch her do her thing and then also just make up some really absurd lyrics while she was at it.
It sounds like it would be fun to watch and it would be fun to participate in for a certain kind of person. But if that happened to me, I would just walk out of the studio, get into my car, and drive it off a
Yes.
cliff.
Yes.
Like I would just be like,
okay.
oh, we're doing a musical episode? Hang on a second. I just got to get something out of my car. And I just drive
Oh my
right off the
gosh.
nearest cliff, just burning
No, oh my
fireball.
goodness. That's how Nega Works is our other cast member, and that's how she felt to some degree.
Yeah.
So she didn't want to sing, which is totally understandable, and we weren't going to force anybody to if they didn't want to. So we made it the bit that she is the only character that realizes it's a musical episode, and
Yeah,
and
sure.
there's
Right.
all these like breaks in reality where she's just like,
What are
"Why are you
you
guys singing? Like, what is
Yeah.
happening?" And then there's also these really great moments where Abria would start a song and then Neg Orcs would look around and be like in character and be like, "No, I'm not doing that. This is crazy. I'm not going to sing a song. It's so weird and dumb. No." So she was like the
Yeah.
only one who was like cognizant of it being a musical episode. So it was like
See, that's
you didn't have to
that's
sing,
such a
and it was
great.
such a cool bit. It was such a cool
Yeah,
bit.
it's such a good bit. Totally. That idea of it's like the Star Trek rule where like everyone has to fit in except one person. You get one weirdo on the episode, and then it contrasts everybody else's behavior. Yeah. Cool.
It was really
Well,
great. Thanks for tuning
I'm
in,
glad that it
Adam.
wasn't a total train wreck for everybody.
I
I'm
mean,
glad that you
even
had
if
a
it
good time.
was, on brand, would have been a great time.
True. Having seen an episode or two of that show, I think you're probably right about that. I think that's a fair assessment. There are some shows like we could have easily done a Mirror Shades or a Nebula Jazz musical episode, but it wouldn't have worked so good on like Court of Swords. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like I don't know. It's like we really run the gamut of just like fuckery and then just like beating the crap out of people's like hearts and souls. Like I think 3 different people at the table cried that night. Like, and it was such an absurd musical episode, but it was also just punctuated with all these really intense emotional moments. So it was like
I think
don't know.
that's such a funny little like it's not a thing. It's like a trope in RPGs that like when people tell stories about playing like Dungeons and Dragons or role playing games in general, everybody seems to have a story about that one time everybody cried. Like I feel like most GMs, given enough time, have that. Mark, have you ever made anybody cry because of your DMing?
Both in good and bad ways, yes. Just
Okay.
like mistakes of like doing stuff like there was I can't remember what it was, but like I put in like a magic item into an adventure that when a PC interacted with it changed it I think it like morphed them into a frost giant or something like that. And I hadn't thought that like to them like they were really upset because it had changed their character from what they envisioned it themselves. And that was like a learning thing of me of like, oh, I hadn't even thought about that could upset somebody, and so we worked to rectify and stuff like that. But yeah, we've had it on the good side as well. Like I think like we've definitely had moments of like super emotive RP stuff that has happened. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I'm half trying to deal with some other stuff that's going on in the background of the show at the moment. Like I've got like messages and emails coming in, so I'm trying to like focus my brain.
Mark is being very English right now. What he means is his house is on fire and he really needs to go,
Yeah.
but he's too polite to say anything.
I'm like fanning
Until
it
we
off
see
the
smoke
screen.
billowing in the background and the bookshelves light on fire. We're gonna make you keep doing the episode, Mark. Sorry.
Yeah.
Wheat, I know you'd be down for some musical endeavors. I think the only singing I've ever had on stream was you and Dodger during Mirror Shades.
I mean, prior to that, one of my absolute favorite characters of all time is Lord Wyman.
I know exactly. Mm-hmm.
And I basically, it was so funny because JP was going to play a bard, and actually I was really upset because I was like, fuck, God, I want to play a bard so I could sing, and JP, I loved what he did because he just had like all these weird musical weapons and shit, but his character died and my character died. So I'm like, fuck yeah, I get to play a bard. So Lord Wyman, all I did was take like pop songs and then create situational songs that then, I would have prepared ahead of time. Like I'm pretty sure there was 3 or 4 songs that I wrote that I never got to sing for that fucking show. But it was a blast. I think for Rollplay fans, if you just look up Lord Wyman on YouTube, there's definitely there were even some remixes of a couple of songs. I did a Katy Perry song that I thought was pretty fucking amazing. But yeah, I love that. Like I'm not a great singer, but I love music and I love, like the style of improv that Vana was talking about is exactly like one of my favorite things. So yeah, I think we need more singing role play, frankly. So good for you. Vana. I think it's great. It's a lot of fun. It's a different
Yeah,
muscle to flex, in your brain.
There's basically two kinds of singing, right? There's like I'm trying to actually sound good, and then there's big karaoke energy. And I think that if everybody is on board with that, where you're like, it doesn't matter if you're good, it's the point is that you're funny or you're fun or like this is entertaining. But then inevitably in every group there's somebody who's like, yeah, but I can really sing really good though, and then they just make everyone else like look bad. But that can be a fun energy too, to be able to do that. Yeah,
Exactly.
well beyond my comfort zone. I'm not a big singing in public person, but I appreciate whenever anyone else does it. We've had a few songs here and there throughout Roleplay's history. Zeke did like a sad orc song once in Court of Swords. Shannon used to rap all the time in West Marches. So yeah, there's a history there. Will there ever be a musical episode of anything I run? Probably not. But will it happen on the show again? Maybe.
Well,
Who knows?
hey, Adam, listen, man. There's nothing stopping 4 players from being like,
I was gonna say this is
We're
out
gonna
of your
do it,
hands, man.
Exactly.
That's right. Yeah. You know what? And that's fine. If all the players were like, we're gonna have a musical episode, I would be like, awesome, as long as I don't have to sing. Let's do it. Go ahead. Now if we're talking about if we did an entire episode as like rap battles, then I am in. Then I'm 100% in. That I could do, but the singing not so much.
Who says a little rap can't be involved in the musical? Listen,
exactly.
Yeah.
totally,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting. I feel like it's one of those things. It's hard to, you want to take those kinds of risks when you're doing a role playing game. You want to try like weird new stuff, but you never know, right? You never know with the group where you're like, well, we're not going to know if this is going to work until we try. So let's see what happens. So being brave enough to do that, to make that big jump, I think that's very impressive. Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Elspeth? Are you a big singer? You like karaoke? Would you do a musical episode?
I honestly, karaoke is one of those things that I just don't like doing. It's the last time I was actually, I think it was at a PAX, and there was just this huge karaoke party, and I had my name signed up sort of jokingly not jokingly, because I fucking love the song Toxic by Britney Spears, and I wanted to sing Toxic because that song's fucking great. And by the end of it, I watched everyone like just sing their heart out, and they were doing so well. And I was just like, I think I'm just gonna leave, because I'm just not that kind of person to like. I don't know. It just feels weird to me singing in front of a bunch of people, and
Damn.
it's not.
You
I don't even know if
didn't.
it's stage fright. It's just like secondhand embarrassment for myself.
Elspeth,
I like
you
it.
didn't think
No, I'm into
about
it.
that karaoke DJ who was like, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we got our next singer coming up to the stage to sing Britney Spears Toxic, Elspeth. And then no one comes to the stage, and you can just, his
crickets, dude.
heart starts to just die a little inside, and
You
you're
murdered that
walking
man.
away, and he's like, Elspeth. And man, I'm feeling for that guy or gal right now. But I totally get where you're coming from.
Yeah, I mean, before I left, I was like, hey, you should probably cancel this because I'm leaving, and I don't want, you to be like, okay, get on up there, sport.
Wait.
But
You canceled your song?
I did. Straight up.
I apologize. This
No,
deserves
it's
an
okay.
apology. I straight
before I
up
left, I
called
was
you
just like,
out, Elspeth.
don't play this because I won't be here, man. I won't be here. So
You are that just shows what kind of human you are. Elspeth. A good
I'm so
human. No, I'm being
considerate.
serious.
What about like private room karaoke? If it was just a group of friends and like a
Vanna, that's still people that you're singing in front
it's
of.
people it's your friends.
I don't care who they. I don't care if it's like freaking. You've got to sing for your life. These aliens just invaded the earth, and now they want to hear your karaoke. They're not
Show me
hearing
what you
it.
got.
Oh my gosh. You're
Oh my
such
God,
a good
if-
singer.
Yeah,
I don't
that's not happening.
understand. I don't
Nope.
understand.
If the fate of the earth ever came down to a bunch of aliens saying to me, Adam, you have to sing this song or all humanity will be destroyed, I'll be like, we had a good run. I would happily
Probably
sacrifice
about
the entire
time.
human race. Yeah, I'd be
Adam,
like, you know what? I
Straight up.
choose not to.
I think if those aliens asked you to do most things, that would be your answer, though. You'd be like,
The aliens
you'd be
could
like,
be like,
yeah,
listen,
yeah.
pass us that bottle of ketchup or we destroy the human race. And I would just look at the bottle and be like, nah, get it yourself.
Sounds like a lot of work.
True. Fair. Yeah. But so you politely let this guy know that you weren't going to sing your song, and then you just
I just
get out of
wasn't
there?
feeling it. It was very like I don't want to do it. Karaoke has never made me feel special, right? It's never been like
all right.
yeah, it's never been. I'm like God bless the people that go up there. Like hell yeah, I'll cheer you on all day, but I don't actually want to do it. It just seems silly to me. Like if I want to listen to music, if I want to hear the song, I'm going to listen to it. I'm not just going to be like blaring it, like yelling at it while I'm super drunk or after like a couple drinks. I'm not. It's not part of my being, Adam. So
No, I like it. I
karaoke
appreciate
does not
it.
speak to me. Like I'll sing on stream, but it's that's more like I don't know, stream of consciousness bullshit. Like karaoke it's scripted. Like you actually have to go up there and you got to be like, this is what you're singing. So you can't just be like pick Tom Jones, then all of a sudden Aretha Franklin. That's not how that works. So it's tough life out there in karaoke world.
Yeah. I haven't done karaoke in forever, though. I watched Zeke do karaoke when we were in Japan, and surprise, he's very good at it. But yeah, I'm definitely more an observer in those situations. I will occasionally do a song, but like generally I'm like, that's cool. You just go ahead. You do it.
Zeke is actually, he's so good that I've ripped off his performances before, like 100%. I've seen him do a song.
Yeah.
He did Gangster's Paradise. No, it wasn't Gangster's Paradise. I forgive me, I cannot remember, but he did the song, and then instead of doing the last verse, he did Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I'm like, stealing the fuck out of that. Like, it's
and that's a high tier of karaoke showboating where you're like, yeah, I'm going to sing lyrics to a different song to this song just to show up. That's escalating a whole other level that I definitely can't approach, but yeah. Yeah. So I guess what I'm hearing is that when next time we're all in the same place, everyone is going to do karaoke, and Elspeth and I are just going to stand there and watch you and judge.
Oh yeah,
silently.
100%. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And see, here's the thing about karaoke, right? You can't be that friend that sits there and is like, wow, they're just doing a really poor job, and then not go up there yourself, because that makes you the asshole. You're just like, well, I'm not singing karaoke. I'm just going to sit here and listen to all of these cretins try to go up on stage and sing something. It's just, I want to be as supportive as I possibly can to everyone who's like, fuck yeah, go do it. If you sing your heart out, like, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna sit here and eat French fries and watch you do it.
Eating French fries and being judgmental are like two of my favorite things. So I'm
straight up, dude. That's like a checklist for me. I'm like, eat French fries, yes. Judge somebody today, fuck yes.
British lifestyle.
Where's that?
So you guys would do well.
Having unwarranted opinions about people doing a thing I'm not brave enough to do. Check. I'm in. Sold. Yeah, it's good. I acknowledge it. I understand. I figured it out. I know how it works. It's okay. Yep. Yeah. Weed, I wanted to ask you, are you excited about all this Path of Exile horseshit that's happening? Are you going to lose your mind over this next release, or are you giving this one a pass? What do you think?
No, I am. I still love that game, and I'm still a baby Yoda in that game. Like I can probably do some shit, but I'm still functionally like worthless. So yeah.
I feel like everybody has that feeling.
Big
Yeah, right.
same.
Everybody's had that feeling like so far today, at least once.
Yeah. So I love it. I'm actually really excited. I'll do some like promotion for JP, but like the upcoming Path of Exile drop frames is going to be totally dope. It comes at a perfect time, and the end of the year league is always a good one because it's when I have the most time off. So I'm pretty looking forward to that. Yeah. And yeah. So fuck yeah, man.
Do you get as into it as like other people, like JP, for example, do, where it's just like massive blocks of time and it's all you talk about or think about or do, and then you force everyone else to listen to a pre-show where you talk about it and you don't understand what they're saying?
Yeah, I would say yeah.
Okay, good.
too many dumb Reddit threads and too many like, well, I'm gonna watch this 3-hour video on how to craft the perfect pair of boots, right? And like dumb shit like that. But my problem is that I can't stream it because no one is like,
Right.
they're just like, this literally could be a fucking like paint drying stream, right? I like to play my way. They are, and that's cool. That's totally cool. But people know when I'm playing Path of Exile because then there's like these long blocks of time where they're just like, don't stream. So,
Yep.
it's that existential crisis with games you really like, but don't do anything for you if you stream them. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a weird. I was talking to a friend of mine who doesn't stream the other day. I have some of those. It's true. And we were talking about that, about like like playing games that you enjoy but that are boring to watch, and then it makes them less fun to play because you're like, well, I'm doing this, but I'm doing my job really badly because this isn't fun.
I feel like that is the ultimate like streamer problem, really. I think everyone's had it who has been on Twitch at some point. They're like, well, I fucking love this game. God, it must be so boring to watch me just sit here and try and grind out this character that I really want to level up or whatever. And then I think at that point you really just have to say, "Fuck it, dude. I love it, so I'm gonna play it." Because otherwise, what's the point, right? If you're not loving what you do, I feel like you should probably just go love something else somewhere. Because I was like, I had that mentality for so long, and I feel like I could just freaking preach about this all day. But I feel like it's so important to really keep what you love in your heart. You should keep streaming close to your heart and not feel burnout just because you feel like you have to play something. Like you just do it because you love it, and if it fleshes out, great. But I swear, dude, it's so important to me to keep loving what you do.
Do you ever have the flip side? Do you ever have the flip side problem where you're playing a game that you maybe don't necessarily like all that much, but that lots of people are engaging with? Where you have like decent numbers and people are excited, and you're playing a game you don't really like.
100%.
Yeah,
100%. Death Stranding was exactly what that was for me because I really wanted to enjoy it. I really went in with an open mind. I didn't know what to expect, and for me, the game felt tedious and boring. But I mean, lots of people have differing opinions about that game, so that's totally fair. But I did want to give it a shot just because so many people were like, "I really want to see you play this game. I really want your opinion." So of course, try new things. But that one for me is just like that's a nope. That's a nope on the Elspeth list.
Yeah, it is an interesting thing where you're like, well, Chad is enjoying this, and I can continue to tolerate this for a while, but like, I'm not really having fun playing this game, but everybody wants me to play it. I feel like that about Dungeons and Dragons most of the time, to be perfectly honest, where I'm like, this game is not that good, but everybody seems to like it, so we're going to make it fun. That's cool.
I mean, definitely there's some roleplay systems with the same thing.
What don't you like about Dungeons and Dragons, Adam?
We do not have enough time for me to answer that question.
Don't do this. Don't do this to me with me here as well.
Hey, Adam, I'm with you, dude. I'm 100% with you. I love it, but I don't.
It's a fine game. The design's not great. It's very middle of the road. It's kind of a bland RPG. There are better choices. I'm not going to give you the full bullet list, but it is one of those weird things where because it's so popular and because it's a game that everybody understands, you kind of overlook that stuff. You're like, yep, that's fine. Like I can play other games other times. But yeah, it's a weird experience to be like, yeah, I'm playing this, but not necessarily because of it being good. Though the problem with that is that anytime I've ever said anything even a little bit negative about D&D, it adds fuel to the Adam hates D&D fire, which is good. So this conversation is I'm just making it worse. Mark, would you like to disagree with me?
We can all have.
I would like. Go on, Michael.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Your face is like literally red. I love it. It's great.
That's just me. That's just when I laugh and smile, my face goes red. No, Adam and I have discussed this in person sometimes. It's fine. We're here to play your whatever system you want to play, Adam, and that's going to be great. And I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, right tool for the right job, and I think the D&D is definitely the right tool for some jobs. And it works for lots of things. But it's not like we're gonna play Far Verona using D&D, right?
Oh, no.
So, yeah. If we did, I guess Autumn would be a sorcerer, and Yasmin would be a fighter, and Haley is probably a bard, and Johnny is
rogue.
Yeah, I don't know. Johnny is maybe like
I see Johnny as the bard, and then
see?
Haley as the rogue, maybe.
Yeah,
Johnny
okay.
could
I
Johnny
can see
does
that.
play guitar.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yes. Yeah, that's fair.
Yes, truly. Mm. I was gonna say he could be.
Johnny
he could
is
also,
a commoner.
what the hell's like a diplomat class in D&D?
There isn't one, is the thing.
There really isn't one, is there?
You're a
just like,
bard because they're the
we're
only
all out
ones.
to kill each other at all times.
Yeah.
And like the atmosphere of this virtual room really changed after the D&D topic came up, and I'm kind of like really enjoying this awkwardness a little bit. It's awesome. Thanks.
I'm never gonna stop crying. Never.
That's good. I need to add more episodes to my made the players cry collection. So please, yeah, if you could it would really help my cred if one of you could just break into tears at least once every episode. That would be really good for me.
To be
Buddy,
like
I can break into tears
narratively
right now for you if you want. You just let me know. It's on cue.
It's
It's
the
always right there.
holidays. It's the
Wow.
holidays. I'm always on the verge. My God.
You open the heavy wooden door into the dungeon's final chamber, and inside you find the realization that your parents never really loved you. What do you do?
Jesus Christ.
Oh,
Crying is a free
internalize it.
Make a therapy saving throw, quick.
Your therapist wanted to talk to you about Roth IRAs rather than give you tips on how to deal with your anxiety issues concerning your existence in the industry and how temporary it is.
I feel like you're drawing on personal experience there. Have you tried? My notes say not being depressed.
Alcohol?
Have you tried that? Is
that okay?
Nice.
Have you tried that? I'm a professional therapist, and it says here you should just stop. Yeah,
Tried it so hard. She did. I went to this therapist for one session, and I did bring up I was like, I have a lot of insecurities around money, and even when I have a comfortable amount of money, I'm still so anxious. And she was like, have you thought about opening a savings account? I think that would solve it. And I was like, no, you. I grew up in the lower middle class, and I'm afraid.
Now I'm just imagining Vana in the bank, standing in front of the teller, and the teller being like, "Excuse me, man, this is a bank," and you're like, "You don't understand.
I need help. Hold me, bank teller. Hold me."
There are other customers, ma'am. I need to.
Oh my God.
So if you're gonna open a checking account, great. Otherwise, get the hell out of here.
Oh God.
I was like, I have a problematic relationship with money, and she was like, a savings account.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I have one. Have you tried a second savings account?
Well, have you tried a Roth IRA? Here's what you do. You go to a credit union. I'm not kidding. She explained me how to go to a credit union.
I think,
I have a credit union instead of a bank. So it's
well, you and my ex-therapist will I'm sick.
I don't even know what a credit union is, Elspeth. So don't look at me. I don't know.
It's a credit union.
Right. If Mark wants to save his money, he has to go down to Diagon Alley, go into Gringotts, and give a goblin all his money.
Yeah. Where all my gold is. Yeah, I got it stacked up next to my pre-war bonds and all of my mithril as well. I've got that stacked up in there when I need it.
Bullion.
I heard the Templar took a bunch of your treasure over to Canada.
Yeah. God, don't even start.
It's a long-term investment, that one.
Yeah.
Smog.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
This is a good
Don't
post
get me
show, and I
started on the
pre-show,
dragon
and I
attack.
know I know that this pre-show is gonna stick with me because later I'm gonna just start laughing about something and everyone's gonna be like, Adam, what's the problem? And I'm gonna be like, Mark lives in England.
It is quite amusing, yes. Yes.
Oh boy.
The Queen and such.
Yep.
I forgot why we're even here, honestly.
Yeah, it feels good to laugh.
What do we do?
Yeah.
Is this a podcast?
What are we doing?
Karaoke and financial advice. Is
karaoke,
why we're here.
Yeah. You know, I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet, given that this is a very regular role play thing, but I'm really surprised that we haven't had an episode of any show, to the best of my knowledge, where we've just done the pre-show and been like, well, that's it, and then end the episode. And everybody's just like, were they going to play the game? Or no, I guess that's it. Okay.
JP would never invite any of us back again. JP would be like, no,
these days we'll just be like, we're good. That's it. Yeah. Well, why don't we take advantage of this whole having everyone together in one place thing and play a role-playing game? JP, if you would, the recap, please. See how fast JP's. Yes. Previously on Far Verona, a moment of panic begins our episode as Haley and Christine scramble for control over a gun Christine had taken from Yasna's bag. Vigdis ends up with the gun in question as Christine flees the room in tears, ending up in the care of Autumn. A moment passes and Christine is suddenly confused about where she is and what's happening, asking to see someone named Clavius and mistaking Autumn for a woman named Eliza. It's clear to Yasna that Christine is suffering from palimpsest syndrome, a condition that affects some synths who have had their memory or personality overwritten with a new one. Autumn puts Christine into a state of suspended animation, a psionically induced coma that should protect her until she can get help. The Neck arrives at Kabina, and Haley receives an encoded message inviting them to visit Shakti Expeditionary Supplies, clearly a front of some kind. In Pilgrim's Gate, our protagonists interact with a customer service kiosk who happily provides a map of the base station, and they make their way to Shakti. Upon arrival, they meet with their contact who mistakes Haley for a girl named Sarah at first, before realizing his mistake. A conversation reveals the man's name is Hugh, and he turned from a life of monastic bliss to becoming some kind of synth smuggler. He leads them to a housing unit behind the shop and invites them to take a load off. They'll be safe here. They talk for a moment about Christine's condition, and Hugh laments there's nothing he can do for her, but that there might be someone around who can. He leaves our protagonists alone, for the time, to rest and recover from their long voyage. So, Vana, I couldn't help but notice you were coughing a lot during that recap. I just wanted to ask if you had considered a 401k. It might help you feel better. If you need a minute to just alt-tab and go open a new bank account, we can save your scene for. All right, so we begin today's episode not with the characters, but on Kabina. So we see the surface of the planet. We recognize it from the shot from the last episode. There are some small dots of light kind of coming and going from the planet. We see a refueling station orbiting above it. And the camera tracks what initially looks like a distant sort of moving dot of light, a ship quite far away. And we track it as it gets closer and closer to the planet, and eventually begins descending down into orbit. The ship looks like a bigger but equally beat up version of the Protecting Neck. This looks like either a much larger cargo vessel or a sort of beat up passenger vehicle of some kind. It doesn't have any clear markings on the outside of it. And we see it break atmosphere and enter the planet's atmosphere, heading down towards Pilgrim's Gate, heading towards where you are situated. And like we saw in the last episode, this vehicle parks in the same kind of vicinity of the Protect Your Neck. It comes down, it opens, and from the doors, we see a whole bunch of what look like refugees, right? They're costumed to clearly indicate to us that these people are coming from somewhere where things have not been very good. They are disheveled looking, they're exhausted, they are filthy to a one, and we see groups of people kind of clinging to each other in clear distress. They've obviously been in this ship for a long time, and there are a lot of them, right? They seem like they've been jammed into the back of this vessel. Now, we stay on the vehicle as this sort of crowd, this unwashed crowd, emerges from it and disseminates out into Pilgrim's Gate. But we linger on a figure. He has a scarf wrapped around his face. It's cold out here. He's got a scarf wrapped around his face. He's got a hood up. He's carrying a shoulder bag, and we track this figure as he comes out. And the camera sets him apart from the crowd in that they kind of come and go, but we stick with this guy. And he moves through the crowd, kind of waves off a couple of vendors as they approach. People offering directions or porter services. Somebody comes up to tell him about a hostel he could stay at, and he waves everyone off. And we see that despite the fact that he has this dirty overcoat and this sort of filthy mantle, we see when he waves them off, the fingers that are sticking out of his ratty gloves are perfectly manicured. His hands are clean despite the rest of him being dirty. So he waves off these vendors, and they kind of scatter, and we see him come into the streets. He looks around, and he takes out of his pocket a data projector, and he holds it up, and we see the same ad that Haley saw. We see the mountaintop. We see the mountain climber who looks, salutes, and like gives a little wave, and then the words Shakti Expeditionary Supply appear at the bottom. And he taps a button on the display, and it turns into a kind of heads up. So there's an arrow. And he aims it, and it's pointed in a direction, and he nods and tucks it back into his coat and heads out into the crowd, seemingly headed in the direction of the expeditionary supply. So meanwhile, in said supply, it's been maybe a half an hour since you arrived, met Hugh, and were given access to the safe house. So behind and I guess probably like below the yard behind the station, there is a safe house with beds and a little kitchen and like a media unit. And on the walls there are some posters mainly for Kabinan and particularly Mugenjishi tourist events. So there's a picture of like a big statue carved into the side of a mountain, and it's like visit the saint, and then there's some like information at the bottom. So they're kind of like tourism board posters that have been placed up all around the inside of this place to kind of give it some life. There's a vase on the table with a couple of flowers in them, and despite the fact that this place doesn't look lived in, the flowers look recently cut and recently placed in this vase. They're still very fresh. There are no petals or leaves around the base of it. So the group of you, as we kind of pan around to get an idea of the room, where do we see each of you? Right, Christine is on her hover gurney somewhere, but give me a quick let's go around. Give me a quick heads up of where you're at. Autumn, where do we see you as we pass around the room?
So I think that having gotten changed into the warmer clothes, she is probably like securing Christine and making sure, like checking the vitals, making sure that there's no complications with the psychic coma she's put her into. And probably just, lingering around that, but casting the kind of worried glance back towards the door that leads out into the shop where Hugh is, given the sort of like last couple of moments before we came in.
So the door, when you look over, the door that leads back into Hugh's, next to it. Now on this side of the door is clearly reinforced. You couldn't really see that because it's sort of a secret door on the other side, but on this side you can see that it's reinforced. It's quite heavy, and there are big metal like sealed locks on it. And then next to it there's a panel, and the panel has a screen and then a series of buttons. And it's off right now, but that's what we see when you look back at the door. You have like a medicine kit, right, Autumn? You have like a first aid kit or whatever you current. Okay. Yep. So in it, I imagine there is some kind of, because everything it's the distant future. So everything is smaller. Anything that we have, the future has in a smaller, easier to deploy version. And so you've got little electrodes like on her temples, and probably like something on her wrist that's measuring her pulse, making sure she doesn't have her heart stop or her brain turn off. Yeah. And so there's a little monitoring piece of software in your personal thing. And so if there is a problem, if she suddenly stops responding, you'll get an alert and it'll start beeping and stuff. Yeah, so you've got a good measure of how she's doing. And to your credit, the psionically induced coma seems to be working. She's in a state of rest. Yeah. And you're not a telepath, so maybe this wouldn't be of interest to you, but it seems like she's dreaming about something. Her brain, her little like brainwave meter, like there's activity. There's brain activity going on. She's not just like zonked out. Yeah, she's making little barking sounds and like rolling around.
Probably chasing a rabbit. Oh my god.
She's probably harassing a strong male figure. So she's asleep. We see that, and then we follow your gaze up to the door, and we pan over, and we see Hadil, who is. She's probably leaned up against the wall near the door. Her bag is sitting by her feet, and she looks like some combination of bored and like ready, right? So she's got that kind of, and maybe Yasna, we pan over to you. Yasna, you'd be the only one that would recognize this kind of weird. It's that like at ease, but be ready for action kind of stance where you could see that she's ready to snap into action at any minute, but she's trying to like relax, but she's very ready for danger.
And like most of the time anyway.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So she's got her nervous energy, her like sort of tense, coiled snake vibe. But she's just seems lost in thought. Like she's looking in the middle distance, but her body language is that she's very much ready in case something goes wrong, despite the fact that you've arrived in a place that's supposed to be safe. What's Yasna doing? Because we track over to Hadil, and then we pull back to Yasna, and what do we see?
I think it's like something probably very similar. And like going through the like what's next, like what now. And probably thinking a lot about, Autumn's sister specifically, and like, having that conversation, because I think in a very, ex-soldier type way, it's like, what is the next set of orders, So Yasna's not necessarily someone who is just like always knowing what to do next, unless it's like, these are my orders or this is the mission to do this. So it is kind of like figuring that out. This is all like new mental ground for Yasna in a way.
Yeah. Cool.
I mean, for feel all like the vibe, right, wouldn't this be the first sort of like, oh shit, we're free? Or like,
yeah, right. Like and that's the thing is I'm wondering, like, it might be that it hasn't really set in yet, or that some of you don't believe that it's possible. I guess that's a conversation we can have. It's something we can kind of look at as we play. But I feel like the energy, the sort of Yasna and Hadil both have this kind of like Willard in the hotel at the beginning of Apocalypse Now, that like everywhere is dangerous, but I'm not on a mission. I need something to do. I'm like going a little crazy. And so, yeah, I think you both have a bit of that vibe, and it maybe hasn't settled in yet. So Yasna, would you have like set up, like, have you taken out any of your equipment? Have you like put your bag away, or is it still like, maybe we need to get out of here?
Based off of the way that the episode ended, like, I'm the kind of RPG player when I play video games where it's like, okay, well, hit up the end, man. Like, let's make sure everyone's full HP and has no stress. Yeah. So whatever action would like dictate that, like, yeah, I it's like we still need a reset before everything else happens. Basically.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
I don't know about unpacking, but at least like, bag on a bed, and
okay,
ready to.
Yeah. So we track over from there to Johnny. Johnny, what are you doing? Where do we see you?
I think if there's some type of like cot area, like a bed, maybe not. I doubt that there will be like full like beds there. Since it's more like a safe house, I guess.
It is a safe house, but it looks more like So you know how the owner of the bar that you used to work at, he had a room in the back for those nights where he just didn't want to go home, or like maybe
Right.
maybe he'd had a couple of whiskeys after closing the bar, and he didn't feel like getting paying for a space cab, and so he had this room where it was like it's lived in, but it's clearly not anybody's primary home. That's kind of the vibe you get from this
Okay.
place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's probably just laying down on one of those beds. He might even have his guitar out, which is kind of funny that we were talking about that because that was what I was planning for this particular scene, was that he's just sort of strumming it. Because that's kind of what he does, like that's his idle state, right? It's like if your computer
Mm,
goes to the screen or whatever display screen, the away screen, that's like Johnny's away attitude is that he's just kind of playing the guitar, taking everything in. He doesn't want to appear worried because again, his job is to be very like, I am here for you and I want to make sure that everything is copacetic and taken care of.
yeah.
But right now he's definitely, some cogs are turning and he's very anxious, um because he fears a bit for the safety of the crew, just because he didn't trust this guy initially, right? Like with the button and everything and being
Yeah.
secretive and having a different personality. Johnny's very wary of what is going on right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now, is Johnny playing a song that anyone would recognize?
He might, it might just have a couple riffs here and there from, just maybe bygone bands at this point.
So let me,
It,
let me just as a measure of kind of understanding. So Johnny, we kind of stopped building Johnny style robots like fairly quickly after
Mhm.
the first synthetic humans we started getting made, and that was like 200 years ago. So if Johnny is playing a song that Johnny learned like shortly after being built, it would be like someone playing a song now from like the 1800s,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
it's a totally different, like there's 200 years between what was popular when Johnny was around and now. And it's
exactly.
easy
Yeah.
I think it's easy in a sci-fi setting to forget that, like, that's actually kind of a lot of time.
Mhm. Yeah,
So I guess that's the
it's a
question, is
good
like,
amount
does
of time.
Johnny,
Yeah.
yeah, does Johnny keep is this, my question I guess would be, is Johnny playing a song that is comfortable and familiar for Johnny, or is Johnny playing something newer that maybe the other players would recognize because the song is for them?
Well, he doesn't really know improv. He's not an improvisational robot. So he is definitely playing something that he's familiar with. But
Mhm.
something that also made him comfortable. So I guess it would liken it to like a waltz, right? Where what we
Mm.
would hear would be like, okay, this is pleasant. I'm enjoying it. Not sure why he's playing it, but it's
Just sort of
not
some
heavy metal, right?
quiet
It
background guitar. Yeah, okay.
exactly. It's something that's just easy, not something you have to pay attention to, just very like low strumming. So it's not anything perfect, right? But he's trying his best. And it's still it kind of it's very what's the word? It's not quite Zydeco, right? Where it's not like high energy
Mm.
stuff, but it's still got those kind of like that kind of chord progression of maybe like a little bit southern, like old style Creole like music, where you'd hear it and you'd be like, that's haunting, but also I really like it. So I
Yeah,
think that's probably what he's doing in the background right now. Just playing some low key Zydeco.
I like it. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. And for sort of like cultural reference, in Far Verona, we like, there's nobody remembers Earth. Nobody, like, it's a pseudo mythical, maybe it never existed kind of place. Like we're cut off. The people in Far Verona came from Earth, but are super cut off from it. And so we might still have little bits and pieces of ephemeral like Earth artifacts culture wise, but we don't recognize them as such necessarily. So this is why you can have a ship called the Protect Your Neck, but nobody knows who the Wu-Tang Clan are. Like that's a reference, but it's
What
1,200
a
years
shame.
old. And yeah, right. It's like yeah, it's like it would even like deep like ancient historians, we lose track because of the scream. So there's a lot of these like weird gaps. So Johnny could be playing something that would be familiar to him, but also to the audience who lives in 2019, right? But it would be this like ancient song with like little bits of melodies from 1200 years ago or whatever, right? So yeah, so that's interesting. Okay, so yeah, Johnny is playing this kind of old timey music and sitting on the bed in kind of a like a relaxed state. And then lastly, Haley, what are you doing? You're a robot that looks like a little kid penned up in a small room with nothing fun to do. It's been 20 minutes.
I do a puzzle. I think like with how she was helping with sort of the transfer of sense back on the last planet, that she kind of has this methodology when entering a new space, and it's a lot of like going over things and like searching for potential like bugs or cameras or like hidden objects, and it's just like a sweep she does to make sure the space is secure before, either as she brings in like a new group of scents or before they get there, to make sure they're not walking into something detrimental.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get you to make a roll. Let's have a roll to look around and kind of get a handle on this place. Let's see. I think it'd just be a perception roll.
Oh, okay, great.
Perception covers most of that kind of stuff. Just put in there's nobody to stop you. Just put one purple in there. There's nothing interfering with it or anything. So.
Just gonna check, like streetwise, wouldn't be it, would it?
Let's see the difference between streetwise and perception. Because if streetwise says like setting up or discovering like bugs and stuff, absolutely. Let's see here. Streetwise, what do you do? Okay, here we go. So, your character should use this skill if you're looking for a merchant to buy or sell illegal goods, trying to understand particular references or slang in a conversation, trying to approach criminals without appearing like an outsider, trying to find your way around an unfamiliar city, or hunting or tracking someone within a city. So it's surviving and thriving in rough, dangerous, urban environments.
Rooms?
So I think in this case, it's rough, more perception.
Rooms.
Yeah, less like security theater.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Are you for real? My thing's not working again.
That's okay. It worked. I see your results.
Oh, it worked. Okay, good.
You succeeded. Yeah. You got one advantage and one success. So yeah, you search the room. So it's good for you because you look like you're just looking for something to entertain yourself, right? You're like looking under beds and like poking around in the little like apartment. What are you looking for in particular? Are you looking for like bugs? I mean, you can ask me questions about the room based on what you search.
Ants?
So what do you want to know?
Ants?
Ants? Bugs?
Yeah, there's a tiny thin line of mechanical ants crawling in under a windowsill. They all form up into one giant ant and kill all of you.
Well, I think everybody's kind of picking up on the like mixed energy of this situation. So I think she is.
Yeah, I mean, and at this point,
like,
you can talk about this too, right? Like the room is weirdly quiet, save for the sort of title screen ambiance, the chill guitar tunes to be paranoid to from Johnny. So if you want to break that tension, Haley, you are certainly welcome to do so. But yeah, let me know what you're trying to find.
But I think she, if she was gonna bring it up, she would definitely check for like listening devices first. So
okay.
Yeah. With her little hands in small spaces.
Yeah. There's no surveillance equipment, hidden or otherwise, in here. It wouldn't be hard to rig something like that up, but it's not. You're not being surveilled. There's no listening device that you can find. No cameras. The only connection really you have with the outside world is, and there's no communications equipment in here. The media terminal has a one-way, like a download link, but you can't like send transmissions from in here. And in fact, checking your personal comms, it looks like you're inside some kind of like Faraday cage. There's no communication coming in or out except through the hard line that is built into the media terminal. And it looks like, flipping through its like library, it looks like you can download like 20-year-old TV shows and movies and like newsreel, but it's all old. Like it's all like from an old archive.
It's just
The
a
only
bunch
communication
of videos of Haley.
Yeah, right.
All her
Yeah.
old movies.
Yeah, they would be like they're all like wartime material, which is like maybe sort of insensitive if you want to put together like a refugee station for people who are directly impacted by the war, but that's fine. So you have, it's like making Anne Frank watch a bunch of Nazi documentaries while she's hiding in the attic. The media terminal, like you can watch stuff, you can download things, but also on the wall, I mentioned this to Yasna, the little terminal, it looks like you can, if you turn it on, it shows a camera display of the shop. And it's one of those broken into four different cameras showing the shop. There's way more security and it's all quite hidden for like a secondhand store. So you see all these cameras. You can see Hugh kind of like puttering around. He's putting like ski jackets on a rack. You can see him puttering around outside. You can't hear anything. And then there's some buttons on the terminal to switch cameras if you want to focus on a particular one, or to page the front desk. You can like try to communicate with Hugh if you need him. And that's the only piece of like communications equipment. The door itself isn't. Would you be locked in here? No, I don't think so. The door isn't locked, but there is a warning taped to the, like a piece of masking tape taped underneath the thing, and it says "Do not open door unless safe." In like marker. Someone's written it on a piece of tape and stuck it on the panel. Now you can just open the door if you want, but it's like check first is the warning on there. So that's the safe house at a glance. It looks like it has supplies enough to last a group of your size of humans that need to eat and drink. So subtract Johnny from that for like a week, probably without resupply if something really bad happened. But eventually the food and the water wouldn't run out, but the food would. And it's not interesting food. It's like packets that you heat up in the food warmer. Though the place does have a kitchen. It doesn't look like it's been used.
With a food warmer.
Yeah, you just take out a plastic tray, jam it into the food warming unit, press a couple of buttons, and like a turkey comes out. Yeah, I will say though, Haley, you notice that the fresh flowers are an interesting sort of touch, and there is a kitchen with like a sink. The dryer, the dish drying like rack, has a couple of mugs turned over in it, and some cutlery as well, still in the drying rack. And that's your current home. That's where you're at right now. Does anybody who is the one to like break this sort of tense silence? Who's the first person to speak?
Probably not Johnny. Like definitely not Johnny. He's there to keep it cool.
I mean, if no one talks first, Haley would probably break the silence after she checked for the bugs. But
yeah,
if anybody wants to break it before then, that would take her a little bit.
It seems like everybody's kind of people are kind of lost in their own thoughts.
Okay, well then Haley would probably walk up to Yasna and be like, "So how are we feeling about this situation?"
What situation?
You know, being in this safe house and Hugh and what's next and everything.
I think there's just like kind of almost a sigh and maybe even some silence, and I say, what's next? That is what is bothering me the most. I don't know how long we should stay. I don't know how we can get to the glacier. I don't know if we need to take Christine. I do know that there are other things that may need to be done before everyone is safe, but I don't know. Perhaps we need to call a meeting.
Okay.
Mm.
Hey everyone, let's have a meeting.
A meeting?
Now you have to be
Meeting about
careful.
what?
You got to be careful with these. You got to be careful with these meetings. You're only allowed to have them once a year. So,
Yeah.
you got to get all the points out. You can't just have an annual meeting whenever you want.
Well, says you, but Higgs says otherwise. Yeah, maybe I said not right the moment, but
Oh, well,
we can.
okay.
Or
Johnny
we can
sits up
leave.
and stops playing his guitar like, what's the meeting about?
About our next move, I guess. Yasna told me to call a meeting, and here we are.
Okay. Do we have to hold hands? Sing,
Yes.
okay.
We do not need to hold the hands.
No,
Haley
Yasna,
grabs-
I need to hold your hand. I need to hold your hand. It's very important.
The instructions that we had us coming here, and now we are here. And as far as I can tell from the map and all of the information we have been given, the Hamasha Glacier is the only destination. And Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, but like that's where there's another starport. Like if we were to leave, that's where we'd have to go.
So yeah, you cross the glacier, and it's like a pretty like long, like brutal trek out there, and then there is a sort of monastery city called Mugenjishi, but it's intentionally isolated. So the place you're at now is sort of like where you would land your spaceship, and then you make the pilgrimage across the glacier. There's a bunch of different ways to
then
get there.
I guess then what I would probably say is that for those who want to, let's say, disappear, I think making the trek across the glacier is what the next step is. But well, wait, Autumn hasn't told anyone else about this.
Yeah, I guess this is a great time because if no, and it's perfect
I
because
did tell about
Yasna, I
the
think
sister. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it sounds to me like Yasna is waiting for Autumn to be like, actually, I have a thing I need help with.
Yeah, exactly.
And so maybe when Yasna, when you're like, yeah, if everybody wants to just go to the glacier and disappear, that's the way to do it. But and then just there's this pregnant pause when you look over at Autumn.
Exactly.
I think,
Autumn,
like-
do you say anything?
Yeah, I think she like puts like she kind of finishes up with Christine, kind of like, tucks the wires or whatever, the little nodes away and stuff like that. And then sort of turns to everybody else. And she's been listening, but kind of been lost in her own thoughts. And looks around awkwardly at the room. Well, I don't know about anybody else, but I'm not just here to disappear. I mentioned that I was looking for my sister. She was supposed to get out of Yakia with me. Um, my plan was to go and ask Hugh if he knew anything or he'd heard anything or something like that, and then try and figure out what had happened, try and find her. Um, Obviously, I don't think that I can do that by myself, but none of you, you don't know me, you don't know my sister very well, so you I guess what I'm trying to say is I could use your help, but I understand if you don't want to. There's really not much I can offer you. My sister is very good at what she does. If you wanted to try and find somebody who could help you find money, find shelter, find supplies, help you do something like that, she's the one to do it. She's very good at that stuff. Um, and she's like you, but yeah. And she just kind of lets the rest trail off.
Mm.
Well, I mean, you did help us, Autumn. You didn't have to do that.
Little, but this is, you guys are safe now. You guys are here. You could find a passage on a ship to somewhere. You could do whatever you want. You found safety, and if you want to go to the monastery and live there, or if you want to try and get on another ship and go someplace else, you could try that. But I guess I know that whatever I try and do, trying to find my sister, there's a chance that it might be dangerous. So if you come with me, I'll do my best to look after you. And if any of you have anything you want to do, once I find Landra, once I do that, I'll return the favor. If I don't know if you guys have anything you want to do, you have any plans or aspirations or things. There's a lot more people like you out there, and maybe you want to help them. That's something I could see myself doing. I just need to make sure that Landra's okay first. And after that, I'd be more than willing to help you in return. If there's anything you have you want to do.
Hey, Autumn, I'm always up for an adventure. I'll go with you.
Johnny, appreciate it. Might be dangerous, but I'll just
I
look
mean,
at Yasna.
Danger's practically my middle name at this point. I don't even know if I have a middle name, so I could probably just say that.
I thought it was guitar.
Danger Guitar.
Johnny
Well,
Danger
Autumn,
Guitar Collins.
That's a pretty good name. Autumn, both Gimli and Legolas offer their support to your cause. So
And my axe.
Have y'all seen the clip of like, I never noticed this before, but Legolas's like eye roll when Gimli
Yeah.
is like, and my axe? I've never noticed that before. And I was like, that's wild.
their relationship is very complicated.
Pet
Well, so
peeve.
so where to begin then? Like Hadil doesn't. She does
Yeah.
that thing that she always does, where she doesn't say anything. She just kind of watches everyone else talk and form human relationships. But yeah, she hasn't said anything.
Well, I
but
think
it seems
Autumn
like
is looking at Yasna and Hidil, basically. Like, because
yeah.
Haley seems and it doesn't seem that anybody has any plan. Like, from what I've seen, it didn't look like anybody really knew what to do with themselves when they got here anyway. But
Mhm.
the only people I could see maybe having more of a goal would be Yasna and Hidil, with the more military mindset.
I think Yasna says, like, we have already discussed this and you know my answer.
I just don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. You may be the first port of call. She was supposed to be here, and I don't know why she's not. I don't even know if she got off Ikea. I hope she did.
That's right.
There is
Everybody get back on
also-
the spaceship. We're going back to
Yeah,
Ikea.
like we fucking not. No, we're not.
You're like, I would say no, thank you.
I'd say no thanks. I'd probably look at Christine and say, with regards to Christine, I mean, she's stable. I've checked everything. She seems to just be in a dream state. Again, it's that thing of she would have had her own plans, or if there was, as far as we know, there was nothing planned for her when she got here. To fix her, it seems that, well, I can't do anything. This seems like it needs somebody who has knowledge of how Cygnus or synthetics. That's beyond my call. Part of me thinks that the best thing for her would be to, I don't know, not leave her here, but maybe wake her up. But she's just gonna follow Johnny if she does, or maybe she doesn't even remember Johnny now.
Yeah, right. We don't know if she's gonna
We don't know how
recover
she's
from
gonna wake
her
up.
like palimpsest syndrome. She's all confused in the upstairs.
I mean, yeah, maybe you could just like unplug her.
No, I can't do that, Haley. No, she's still a person. I'm not just. I mean, that's basically asking me to kill her. I'm not gonna do that.
She did try to kill Johnny or you.
We don't know
Somebody.
that.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty big jump of logic, Haley. I mean, I like it, but she the only
We
crime she's
don't-
actually committed was that she tried to steal a gun from Yasna. She didn't get to do anything with it yet, but
And went into a catatonic state and started walking towards the room they were both in.
true.
We all know what was gonna.
I don't think that's a leap.
Legally, I think you're probably wrong about that, but I understand that yes, that's
There's
true.
no
She
law
had the
in the
intention.
underground.
All right, good. I like
we
it.
can't. We can't. I'm not just gonna do that. Either we
It was
wake her
just
up
a
and we have
suggestion.
to
I
wake her up.
thought this was a brainstorming session. Okay, just throwing
Suggestion
out
noted.
ideas, just spitballing. That
There is a
death is
slight
always an
like
option.
Christine
that worries me.
in her current state allows us to do whatever work we can do here on the surface of this planet. So
Yes,
I suggest we leave her as she is.
for now.
Perhaps there's
Well,
someone here who can help, but
well,
I
that Hugh guy said that there was somebody who could maybe update Johnny, so maybe the same person could help Christine with her crazy brain.
Maybe that's the first steps then. Maybe if there's something here on the planet that you need to do, we could do that first. See if they can help Christine, and in the meantime, we can start looking into. I can start looking into what might have happened to Landra and see if we can find a way to find out where she went
That's
or what
it's
happened
like
to her.
asking a toaster what it needs to get better at its job. Johnny
Listen,
has no idea.
Add a
He's
Well,
gun
like,
so
in
so
it. Add a gun.
so Hadil hasn't said anything yet, but I think there is that moment of like awkwardness, and she says there's a moment of quiet, and she says, does it bother anyone else that there's a bunch of synthetics and now we're all talking about taking orders from some human noble? I mean, no offense, Autumn, but that's kind of how we got into this position in the first place, listening to humans, doing what we were told.
I understand. I am not in any way trying to tell you what to do, and I'm not trying to give orders. I'm asking for help. If you don't want to, Hadil, I completely understand.
I think he
You have
hasn't.
every right to be upset and angry, and if you want to walk away, you walk away. I don't hold that against you. I'm just
But
asking.
say we do choose to help you. How are we supposed to know that we're doing it of our own free will? How do we know that we're not just programmed to do whatever humans tell us to do? Or specific kinds of humans? How can we know? How can we be sure that this is an equitable arrangement and that you're not just manipulating us?
I guess you can't. I can give you my word, but I know that that's probably not worth much. I don't have an answer to that. I'm not trying to do anything. I promise you that I'm not trying to purposely manipulate you. I'm not trying to use anything against you. I mean, I'm just trying to help my sister. Like I said, if you want to walk away, if this isn't the life for you, if you don't want to help, that's fine, and I completely understand. If you have
That's the thing that
something you need to
that's the
do,
thing that you're not understanding, human. I want to help you. I feel bad for you. I feel sad that you're missing your sister, but I don't know if those feelings are my feelings. Maybe I'm just programmed to feel bad for you. Maybe I wouldn't feel the same if Haley went missing. No offense, kid. But here's the thing, Autumn. You people made me to do one thing. I only know how to do one thing. And if you bring me along, I'm going to do it. People are going to die. That's what I do. So I'll help
Why
you
is it cool
because I
when
think I
Hadil
want
brings it
to.
up? Not when I bring it up.
She looks at you, Haley, and she's like, it's because they made me to look like an adult and they take me seriously, and you look like a child, so they don't have to take you seriously. And she
Well,
turns
that's
back
not
to
fair.
Autumn and she says, I know you don't believe any of this personally. I know that you're one of the good ones, but you have to understand that none of us can believe. And she takes a point to like look at everybody in the room, right? Like one at a time, kind of slowly. None of us can really know where our thoughts or feelings are coming from. We were born manipulated, and born manipulated by people like you. So you have to know that you're responsible for whatever happens. That's how this works.
I think that she looks at Hadil for a long time. I can't pretend to know what Cygnus was doing or what the anybody else was really planning. I do wonder if you are only capable of one thing. Seems to me that something as incredible as what you all are, if that were to be, I don't know, even the fact that you're here, right? Surely if you were programmed to only do what humans do, you couldn't even be here. You couldn't even have escaped. Maybe it's just me being idealistic. There's a part of me that wants to believe that you could be more than just what was programmed into you. I hope that my sister doesn't just care about me because that's what she was told to. That the time we spent together, that the moments we shared together meant something. And I'm kind of hoping that that plays out too. But you're right. I None of you can know that. None of you will know. And if you do help me, I can promise you I will do everything in my power to help you, to keep you alive, to do whatever I can to repay you. But that's all I can offer. I don't have any answers. I don't know these mysteries that you yourselves don't know. And I'm not sure you're going to find those answers either if you come with me. If there's something you need to do, I will help you do that too. But I've got
Mm.
nothing left. And
Make
you're right. Maybe I
make a
don't understand.
make a charm roll
Sure.
because I think you're trying to like have some empathy and trying to invite her to like empathize with you. So make that
It's-
charm roll. Let's say difficulty. Normally it would be how difficult is Hadil to convince? Like, not really. She's not even really saying like I don't want to help you. She's just like, let's all acknowledge
She's
that
making
maybe
a point. Yeah.
maybe we're presupposed that we're supposed to help you. Like it's frustrating for her, and she's kind of looking to everybody else for like, yeah, this is awkward and weird because maybe I was just born. Maybe some dumb scientist was like, do whatever humans say, like humans, and so now she's worried that that this is happening.
And the frustrating
So
thing
let's
for
do-
Autumn is she totally gets that and totally
Yeah,
sympathizes
yeah.
that like she like Hadil's saying that like Autumn's like, fuck, she's right. What if they are just helping me because they're meant to and not because they want to? And now it's starting to it's starting to make her suspect like what happens when she finds her sister. Does that mean anything?
Right. And I think that moment was the one that made me think that this is worth a roll, right? That this actually is about making a point. And I like that Autumn had that personal revelation of like, oh, well, they like made my sister to replace a real person. Why would my parent? It goes back to whether you think your parents would have bought a synth that to love you or not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if
I like
the
it.
time that they spent actually developed into something. I guess, in
Yeah.
fact, if it's anything, the charm roll is trying to kind of help convince Hadil that maybe she has more power. She has more influence of her own thoughts than she thinks she does, or like trying to allay her own
Right.
fears.
Which
I think
the funny
that's
thing is
more what
Autumn
I'm saying.
Autumn doesn't
Yeah.
even know that. Like you're making
No,
this.
yeah.
This feels to me like a very Autumn moment where she's like, I don't know if it's true, but I believe it in my heart, and she's still dressed like a fucking winter
absolutely.
princess and shit. So like there is this kind of like wide-eyed like I don't know anything about
Idealism.
this science.
She's
you're talking about.
idealistic.
In a way, Haley, I think you're almost like recognizing in what Autumn is saying lines that were written for you to seem like an idealistic, wide-eyed youngster, right? Like you're like, oh yeah, that's good. I like it. That's a good line. I've heard that before. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Make that charm roll. Let's say one purple. And I'm gonna spend a story point and upgrade. So one
One red?
purple and one red. Yeah.
Okay.
'Cause I think there is a chance for this to go like catastrophically wrong.
Okay. I'm just gonna check something. Would you consider us to be in polite company? Just because I have a thing called
polite
pop-
is
I
that
have
has
Wrong
to be
word.
just
yeah,
because
so we cut over to Haley, and Haley's sipping tea out of a teacup with one finger up. Like, tell me, describe. No, but yeah, I don't want to cut you off from your talent. So read the talent description to me, and then we'll talk about it.
Basically, it's called proper upbringing. When your character makes a social check in polite company, as determined by your GM, you may suffer a number of strain to use this talent to add equal number of advantage to the check. The number you exceed may not exceed in the ranks. So I can basically just spend one strain to get one advantage. But it's in a social situation of polite company is what it says.
I'm gonna try to see what. Okay, here we go. So this is the dictionary definition of impolite company. Then I'll interpret from that, because I can't tell if it's supposed to be like if you're amongst people
Fancy
who are better
company.
than the regular schlubs. Like, is it like
No, absolutely.
polite company, or is it like upper class snooty tennis player types?
Exactly.
So
No, that's why I asked.
Yeah. Okay. Polite company in this definition refers to a group of people who are respectable, who conform to norms of behavior and language that are inoffensive to others in society. Originally, polite company referred to socially superior people. Today, polite companies use more to describe a group of people that adheres to behavior and language that cannot be construed as provocative. I think polite company in this case means like nobles.
Yeah.
Nobles,
Okay,
I
that's
also
fine.
think,
corporate
like-
CEOs, or like
Yeah.
people of
If
significance.
I was dealing with
It's a way
another
to be
noble
like,
town. Yeah.
yeah, it's a way to be like, oh, let's have this conversation
Hello.
again later in polite company, like when the schlubs aren't around. Don't say it in front of
Yeah.
the serfs.
Sure.
So yeah,
Cool.
I think it's
I also think like our existence is technically like a blight and like rude.
yes, yeah.
So-
You're criminals by your very existence. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's tricky. Okay, all right.
What a
So,
garbage roll.
You blow it, bad
Those,
shapes,
those black
but
dice, yeah, bad shapes fuck me on that.
No.
so you mark your mark your point of your
a
point of
strain.
stress, because it is stressful. Yeah, you're strained.
Very
And Hadil, you see that Hadil is not convinced, but it doesn't change her actions, right? This was more about what Hadil thinks and feels. And so when you finish with your little speech, you find that instead of bolstering her to your side, all that's really managed to happen is that she's eroded your own certainty. Like, you come out of the other end, you know, when you're like trying to convince someone of something, and then in the end you're like, oh, nope, I'm wrong. That's okay. And you just kind of like go away feeling uncomfortable. I think that might be what happens here. You can decide how your character feels about it, but there is this sort of realization of being like, oh, okay, yeah, and maybe you get lost in thinking about like, does my sister actually love me, or was she just
Yeah, I
programmed
think
to?
that's the big thing. Also, as a weird thing on my character sheet, my strain and wounds and stuff have vanished.
Oh, well, that's like
I
your
somehow managed to
thresholds,
click it.
or-
No, I found it. No, I've got them now.
You got it. Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Cool.
Yeah, like I clicked.
Yeah,
I must have clicked
there's a
something.
lot of nested tabs on this character sheet where
Yeah.
stuff comes and goes kind of willy-nilly. So yeah.
I got it.
Can
All right.
Haley try like an assist really quick?
I think in this case, yeah, like the problem is that if you want to bump this from a failure to a success, you would have to contribute enough to.
Oh, I think just
I don't think it's
her
possible.
own-
But
she's
you-
trying her like
yeah,
own
you could-
thing.
Yeah, you could say something and do something different if you want to like
Yeah.
nudge the conversation in a different way. Okay, so
But
you
Autumn
see
is
that
still
you
sad.
see Hadil be like, yeah, but now we're taking orders from a human, which we were programmed to do. Is that right? Like, she's basically premising, can we actually get along and be friends? Is that actually possible, or is the power divide too big for this ever to be an equitable relationship? And that makes
Is
Autumn
there a
sad,
hidden
because it's like,
thing? Yeah.
maybe
Maybe
no.
that's true.
So Haley, yeah, if you have something to say, go ahead, and yeah, definitely.
I think Haley would walk over and like grab Hadil's hand in her little paw, and then she'd
Mhm.
just be like, "Well, I understand what you're saying, Hadil, and I think we've all thought about that sort of thing a lot. But the thing is that Autumn made a choice to help us and to travel with us and defend us, and we know that she is capable of free will, and she chose to do all of that. So." Even if we're working under some sort of programming duress, it's still quid pro quo, and I don't know about you, but the previous experiences I've had with humans, if I'm gonna be under somebody's whim, I'd rather it be Autumn than some of the humans I've dealt with in my past. You know?
So your argument is like, well, if we have to wear the chains of servitude, it might as well be to this like nice lady instead of like a scary bad guy.
It's like,
I mean,
also like
it's a depressing but valid point. Like,
right. And also that it's like, even if we're like mechanically under, like if our programming is making us sort of like empathize with Autumn or want to help Autumn, Autumn also is choosing of her own free human will to help us, or has in the past done that. So it's like, even if like our inclination is to do that because of our
Gaming it.
programming. It's still it's
Fact
still
is still.
balancing the scales, of what Autumn has decided without programming to do for us.
So if you make a roll and you succeed, how will that change what Hadiel thinks or feels?
I don't think Haley's trying to change her mind. Like I think
Mm.
every synth in this party knows exactly what the deal is expressing. I think it's just like Haley trying to be like, this is
More
better
like
than it's
trying to
ever been.
we can trust. Yeah.
Right. It's we're on a path and it's not on the like express route to freedom or like independent sentience or something like that. So we have to take what we can get and make compromises and
Yeah.
and
Like you're not going to find a
understand the
better deal. What are you
balance.
going to do?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Go off on your own and like, okay, yeah. So same thing. Make a charm roll. I don't have any story points, so it's just going to be 2 purple.
2 purple.
So thanks to Autumn for taking that hit for you. Yeah, make a charm roll with 2 purple in your pool.
Okay.
Oh, so you feel better, right? You've got 3 advantage that you can spend to recover strain or hang on to a blue die or whatever. And I love this. All you manage to do is just make yourself feel better. And it doesn't affect the deal at all. But you're like, as you're saying it, you're realizing that maybe you believe it, and you're like, yeah, all right, I feel okay about that. But Hadiel is still like, I don't know, this makes me feel weird. And I don't know, like, does Haley notice that it doesn't work, or does Haley do you just get caught up in your own feelings instead?
Yeah, she's just like, great work, me.
And that's a wrap. Somebody get me a popsicle. I love it. And it's such a good roll too, because it's just like a bunch of kind of empty platitudes that don't sink in, but you feel like I did a good job today. Yeah, I like it.
Well, now that they've tried to talk to Hadiel, I'm just going to walk up and slap her across the No, I'm just kidding.
I don't think that this is the time or the place. There are people around. Wait till they all leave the room before you and Hadiel do whatever it is you need to do.
It's not the time or the place, Adam. Yes, you are right about that.
She's not like, I hate you, I'm out. She's just kind of like, I'm going to point this out to everybody, this uncomfortable truth. And then we can all just kind of sit with that for a minute. And I think like, unless anybody else says anything, we kind of fall back into that like uncomfortable, too many people in a hotel room silence where you're just like looking at your nails and nobody wants to be like, hey, do we want to watch TV? Like it's just this awkward silence settles in. And what feels like several hours later, but probably isn't, it's probably only a few minutes. You hear a faint jingle, right? A chime of a couple of notes come from the little intercom. And then it repeats. And then the sound of it is definitely a like, hey, the intercom is trying to get your attention sound.
I'm gonna answer that.
Okay.
I can't reach. Just kidding.
No, hang on though. So it occurs to you, you're like, oh, I'm gonna get that. You turn, you're like, oh, I'm not tall enough. There is a footstool sitting right near the thing that would be just the right height.
Great, I'll go ahead and push that over.
He did mistake Haley for someone.
Yeah, so you want to go over and get it and climb up there. Okay.
And like climb up on it like real stupid. Like throw my arms over the top, my butt's like wiggling back here, and I'm trying to like throw a leg up.
I like the idea that Haley can't do anything like normally. You have to do it in a way that like assumes that someone's looking at you, and so you're like, I gotta be cute about this.
Very cinematic. Very cinematic.
Yeah, I like it. I feel like I know people like that, like theater students mostly, who it's like, there's no audience, man. You can stop acting. And they're like, don't worry about it. Let us go to the Burger King. And I'm like, come on, Gary, just fucking rein it in a little. Like,
rein it in, Gary.
Oh my God. Yeah, I knew it.
So, so you want to climb up and answer the call?
Yes.
Okay. So it's not hard. There's a little blinking button. You just press it, and the screens blink, and they focus on a screen that shows the camera in the hallway, and in the hall, you see Hugh, and Hugh is carrying a bundle of something in his arms, something like wrapped up. He's got it in his arms, and he's smiling. His cheeks are kind of rosy. He's wearing like an outdoor like coat. He's got like a jacket on, but he looks like he just came inside because he is it's like his cheeks are red. And he's a little bit like overwarm now that he's back inside. But yeah, he's pressed the button and he waits and you answer and he says I wanted to come in and talk to everyone for a minute. Can I enter?
Haley will look back at everybody else for confirmation.
Yeah, and there's a little green button that has a lock, but the lock is open. It's next to a little red button with a closed lock, and it's blinking. Yeah, you push it, and it settles in, and there's a loud noise as the central lock on the door clicks open and pulls the metal bars out from either side of the wall, and then the door swings open, and you see Hugh, and he's got that paper like bundle in his arms. And he comes in and he smiles at you and he's like, oh, thanks. And he walks past, and there is in his wake, there is a cloud of like intoxicating scents that you smell, Haley, like this sudden like sweet smell, and there's like a bunch of different layers to it that as he walks by, it changes the scent, and it kind of like lingers in the air like perfume for a moment and then fades as you watch him come in. And like something about the smell is like very evocative to you. Like something about it is like very intense. And pretty soon everybody else in the room can kind of smell this. And he smiles and he looks at the vase and he says, I thought these ones from yesterday were looking a little bit wilted. So, and he opens the packet and he's got an armful of just like beautiful tropical flowers, like orchids, and there's like purples and reds and blues, and like this beautiful bouquet of like automatic glance. These are very expensive flowers, like, and growing them on a planet like this would be very difficult. Yeah. And so when he unfolds it, all of you smell that kind of intoxicating, like jungle plant like smell. And he smiles at everyone like, I thought it would brighten the place up a little. You don't mind, do you? And he gestures at the vase.
Autumn just shakes her head. It's like, no, yeah. Very sweet of you.
So he walks over and he places, and he's just kind of humming to himself. And he places the flowers into the vase and like very carefully like arranges them, takes one out and like clips the bottom off with some like clippers that he has, like tucks them back in and kind of ikebanas the whole thing all perfect. And he looks at it, and while this is happening, and I think this is the shot probably that as it ends we fade out on it. He's arranging it and he's humming. And Johnny, he's humming the song that you were playing on your guitar earlier. And I think, he finishes and he sits up and he turns around smiling, and that's the shot. And we fade out on Hugh's face as he sort of smiles.
Deal with this guy.
Who knows? Who even knows? So
yeah, I looked for bugs. Why?
Vents or something. Like maybe
no,
we could hear the guitar
it's
through
bigger
like
than that, I think.
I
reckon
like
it's
that.
So we'll have to find
Johnny
out.
or some shit.
We'll have to find out when we come back from our break.
Johnny's
So we're gonna take a short break here, and we will return, and the paranoia will just continue to increase.
God
I'm sure.
Damn it.
It will. It will.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.